should wait, I think, the moderator could do that. Yeah. I mean, it's those chairs.
Perfect, yeah.
We could ask more. Hi.
Here's a chair. Oh, no, I've got one here. Last time she was in the video. It's been a lot smoother.
Test. Test.
I was looking for.
We can hold it in our hands if we want to, right?
I have another.
Okay. We actually never really met. Rajesh. So where in New York do you live?
I live in Brooklyn.
Here.
Yes, the chair is for you.
Brooklyn, is it quite slow?
Hi. Nice to meet you. Hi. Thanks for everything. Yeah.
I mean, we did in the beginning. Yeah, very briefly.
Water would be fine.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm all set. I'm all set.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Rajesh.
Oh, nice to meet you, Renata.
Where in Brazil are you from?
Oh, I'm from Porto Alegre.
Okay.
Do you know
Famous,
that?
known for the World Social Forum.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's so cool that you know. Very south.
My downstairs neighbor is Brazilian from Recife.
Really? Oh, Recife.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Renata. Nice to meet you. So,
Thank
do we
you,
need
Jen.
more mics or?
I. No. Park Slope.
No, I live in Crown Heights.
Okay.
The other
That's
side.
Russian, isn't it? Isn't that like
No,
a...
it used to be. It was a very Caribbean neighborhood,
Okay.
and Jewish as
Okay.
well. And it's a very beautiful, architecturally beautiful neighborhood. It's a little bit run down. And we've been there about 10 years, but in the last 3 or 4 years, it's like they're
Yes, gentrification.
which of course I'm part of it.
You are the gentry,
I'm
right?
also like we're also
Oh.
it's a place where like it's a place where it's so expensive that like you don't like you wear like bags and it's like $3,000 for 2 bedroom and you can pay $1,500 for 2 bedroom like it's not a no-brainer.
Yes, especially.
And then 10 more minutes out.
Right.
So much of it is around problems with real estate, living, housing. That's not like it's not in the best.
My brother did his PhD at Rockefeller in the Upper East Side. So as a grad student, he was living in the Upper East Side for like almost 6 or 7 years. And I would live in New York City in a heartbeat. It's probably one of my 3 favorite places in life.
fabric in the truth. I love living in Cambridge, but I'm very excited.
Small. I mean,
Well, you'll
I
want
grew
to
up in
write
Delhi, which is a huge city, and Boston is definitely on the lowest.
Urban and like rural
Sure.
together.
I mean, if you're an academic, which I am, it's a fantastic place to be. I'm visiting MIT right now. But, I mean, I was in India at a tenure position.
Like a 1 year resident.
So we are doing the startup now, right? This Connect. So until it's, well, depending on where it
I'll
goes.
go out and drink to startups.
Yes.
They are a thing.
Yes.
There is something to like. I've learned
Testing.
a lot about
It's okay.
all the things I did.
1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. Great.
So,
Feedback.
I mean, unfortunately,
We okay?
I'm guessing so you're 100%.
Is that good?
I think has now.
Okay.
So it does, and when we thought of the other, like we got together and discussed the idea. It was like,
Do you want me to step away from there? Yeah.
Yes.
but like we have very basic proposal because no one knew really what the idea was actually.
Much better.
Uh-huh.
And so then we weren't around available to do the next cycle because like I
So MIT has something called a venture mentoring service, which anyone. So if you have if you're wrong, you can still access it, and it's fantastic. So they basically create a panel of experts for you to be to advise you. So,
Thank you.
but yes, as an academic,
Okay.
the startup world has been an interesting. Are you here only for this meeting?
I live in the U.S.
Oh,
in
okay.
New Jersey.
How are we doing?
So it's a little
Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I think we can get started here. I'm Sarah Finney-Robinson. I'm going to moderate this session for us, and I was honored to serve as a judge on this track for behavior change and inspiring the public this year and also last year. And as you know, this contest has done nothing but just grow like crazy. And so we're really excited to see a few zeros added to the number of entries and attendees for next year. We have 3 incredible projects and proposals here, some of which are well underway for you to consider and be inspired by today. And I'm going to ask each one of our winners to please just introduce themselves briefly. Tell us a little bit about your project and where you're from, and then we'll get into some videos. Each of the projects has a video, and hopefully you're all going to be taking down your questions and thoughts and ideas as all of this proceeds, so that the Q&A, which will really be a marvelous part of this session, can be lively and can answer your questions and also pollinate your ideas with these amazing entrepreneurs. And we will also have some sort of moderator-guided questions after the video portion of this. So why don't we start, Jill, with you and just tell us a little bit about Dear Tomorrow. Oh, and please tweet away, obviously.
My name is Jill Cubitt. I am a co-founder of a project called Dear Tomorrow. I'm here with my amazing co-founder, Trisha Schrum, who's sitting in the front. And our project is a question around how do we change mindset and how do we inspire people to engage on climate. I need the mic. Is that better?
Yeah.
Our project is how do we inspire people to be engaged on climate, and how do we change mindset and the public narrative around climate through getting people to rethink how they address climate and starting from a place of love and thinking about the people in our lives that are very important to us. And so the big question for us is,
what kind of world do we want to create for our children and grandchildren.
Thank you. That's great. I think we'll just go in the order that we have here. So Renata, Engajamundo.
Yeah, Engajamundo. Okay, you can hear me, right? All right. So hi everyone, I'm Renata. I'm 19 years old, and I'm here representing the youth NGO Engajamundo. It means engage the world in Portuguese. And basically, I'm here representing more than 1,600 volunteers in the 5 regions of Brazil. So no pressure, right? But our project is called What is Climate Change and What Do I Have to Do with It? It's basically capacity building workshops in all regions of Brazil in order to engage young people and tell them in a fun way how they can engage in climate change and why is it important that they do so, and why future generations really need to pay attention to that and be involved and be engaged, not just in the local level, in their towns, but also in their international level. So attending COP conferences of the UNFCCC and other events like this one. So it's basically just spreading awareness of climate change for young people in Brazil.
Fabulous. Rajesh.
Hi, my name is Rajesh Kasturirangan. I'm one of the co-founders of Climate X, and I'm here with my wonderful partners, Dave Damlor, who's over there, and Kurt Newton, who's over here. We are really, really excited because Climate X is launching essentially now. So you can go to climatex.mit.edu, and I hope every single person in this room registers for that, like this very second.
Should I repeat that?
Yes.
climatex.mit.edu. Go there.
But really, more than anything else, so I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she always asks me, so how's the world going to be when I grow up? And to be frank, I don't know how to answer that question, because I don't want to tell her that the world is not going to be such a nice place when you grow up, but I also don't want to tell her that everything will be fine. And so Climate X is a peer-to-peer learning platform so that we can teach each other how to take climate actions in the most fine-grained and easily implementable way, and that are driven by the needs of people wherever they are. That's what we're doing.
Thank you very much. I think we'll just launch into the video segment of this program. So our video VP in the back of the room there. Hello. Are we all set? Let's go in order here. Let's see the Dear Tomorrow video first, if you will. Thank you. And please remember to be thinking, everybody, of what you'd like to ask these people and ideas you have for them.
Nearly 2 years ago, I was inspired by Christiana Figueres, the head of the UN climate negotiations, when she spoke about a dream she had for children of the future, look back and ask her what she did about climate change. I thought about what I would say to my own daughter, who was 10 months old at the time. Tomorrow.
Amazing. All right, so here we have Engajamundo.
Hello, I'm Daddy. We're from Engajamundo, and we're here to present you what is climate change and what do I have to do.
That works with advocacy, capacity building, and mobilization to take global issues such as climate change, gender equity, and sustainable development to young people from all over the country.
We already impacted more than 2,000 young Brazilians, and we have more than 15 local hubs in the 5 regions of Brazil. This mobilization can be done by 3 factors. First, looking at yourself, observing your interaction with the environment, and shifting behavior to cause minimal impact in it. Second, political pressure in the decision-making leaders. Third, local sustainability actions.
Our project aims to approach the Brazilian youth about the current climate reality and to raise awareness about occupying spaces of power and decision that address climate change. This goal will be achieved by means of dynamic capacity building sessions with young people in the 5 regions of Brazil, using a suitable language for young people, addressing general issues of climate change like climate science, mitigation, adaptation, negotiations under the UNFCCC, lobby and advocacy, and how to be part of the solution. Being the last one, an interactive discussion of how young people can make decisions in their daily lives that will impact the climate positively. Promoting behavior shifts such as reducing the consumption and using bikes or public transportation instead of cars. To further increase the power of the previously mentioned behavior changes, practical actions regarding how can we adopt more sustainable actions and attitudes will be promoted after the training, like vegan cookery and permaculture workshops. With your help, we want to take these capacity building workshops to at least 10 cities of the country, and we will spend the money with facilitators, communications, food, materials, and everything we need to make these workshops a life-changing experience to these young people.
Hi, I'm Rajesh Kasuri, co-founder of ClimateX. And while there are thousands of climate action groups around the world, they tend to act. Connecting these groups is crucial for what humanity is to address the challenge of climate change at scale and scope. ClimateX is the university of global climate action. We're building a peer-to-peer platform that offers action learning, career development, and community. And we are delighted to partner with MIT's Office of Digital Learning to create an online platform application called ClimateX. Initially, the ClimateX Hub will connect learners worldwide with MIT climate experts. First, ClimateX Hub is being launched this fall. The Hive is a peer-to-peer network hosted at climatex.mit.edu. We're going to run 8 seminars for which we have found 9 talented MIT alumni and graduate students who will be delivering seminars that connect climate science to climate action via topics such as citizen science, open hardware, renewables, nuclear energy, and physics. We're going to organize challenges between these themes to overcome. We also have ambitious plans for learner expert. We're going to bring some of the ClimateX online community to Cambridge during MIT's Independent Academics Community project. We also have several specialized hires planned for the spring. However, all of this is a lot of work and we need your help to succeed. ClimateX needs your support along 3 dimensions.
also need between 200 and 400 hours, expand our user base to attract new content creators and to build our next stage of growth. If you want more information, look us up on the web at climatex.com or send us an email climatex_team@mit. We really look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, so congratulations to all of you for not only coming up with great ideas, but also great videos. It's fantastic. And I just think that something that really all of you have in common is this really generous and optimistic, yet grounded in reality approach to really involving a targeted yet wide and influential swath of a demographic slice, if you will, to get involved on climate change and solutions. I almost can see opportunities for all three of you to work together eventually, and I wonder maybe we'll have some more ideas on that as we go forward. But knowing as an entrepreneur myself that really staying focused on what your key selling point is, what your key message is, what the benefit is, I'd like to invite each one of you to really say in just a few sentences, when was it that you realized that you had refined your concept enough? When was it that you realized that you had a target audience, if you will, that would be viable and powerful? And what is it about that audience, perhaps a story from a member of that audience as you've grown your community, that really made you realize, okay, I'm gonna set aside some time and money and devote myself to this project, go through all the hoops to enter this contest, and then here we are, after several months, you guys have survived many rigorous sort of hurdles, and here you are. So I'm interested, Jill, and maybe you'll have your co-founder also contribute to this, but what if you had to give us, in a nutshell, one example of when you knew that Dear Tomorrow was going to be successful and would be worth pursuing, what would that be? What comes to mind?
I would say that the first time I read a letter that was written by someone else and it made me cry, and it was someone I didn't know. That was the first moment of understanding that what's being submitted by people has tremendous depth, and that people really do care about this issue, and they a lot of people want a place to express kind of the challenges that they're feeling. They're concerned about the future for their children. They want to remain hopeful, and they, one of the things we've noticed in the project is that, when a parent writes a letter or a grandparent writes a letter, they often don't say like, I'm sorry. It's really difficult for people who have children that are growing up in this new world to say that. They say things like, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is what I hope for you. This is what I want for you. And those messages are very powerful. And so when I started reading letters and they were moving me, and I was feeling what the authors were saying was very similar to how I felt that there was a much broader narrative for us to share.
Okay, that's great. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you and Tricia to talk about the very rigorous behavior science that is actually underpinning your platform. This all sounds like yummy, mummy, lovey, but it's actually extremely powerful and well founded, and I very much appreciate the work that you've done there. So we'll get to that. So Rajesh, why don't you tell us, it seems to me you almost have totally marriage made in heaven here. You've got MIT, you've got the Alumni Network, you've got the best and the brightest climate scientists here. So tell a little bit of, I mean, I can imagine how you knew that this was a solution that just nobody had thought of yet. It's terrific. You're slipping into a system that's already up and running. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about the reception from the existing entrenched institution and your president, who has issued a very bold and inspiring climate plan. How's the community here at MIT receiving your idea?
That's a tough question to answer, but let me actually tell you a little story first, and it's not about MIT. One of my old college friends, who is a hedge fund manager in New York, you know, that's the kind of world we live in, and he and I have exactly opposite political and other sympathies. In fact, he wanted me to get arrested. I mean, he told me that I would get too arrested, all right? But when I told him about Climate X, and I told him what we are building, he actually, not only did he vote for our plan, but he got 5 other people to vote for it. So that's when I felt that maybe something that we are building for the future is worth it, even for people who have very, very different ideas of how to run the present. And I think that was a big wake-up call for me. When it comes to MIT, I think Dave and I Dave is here, so knocked on lots of doors. And as we were walking from one office to another, what we realized is that there's tremendous expertise on this campus. You know, everything from public policy to climate science to behavior change. I mean, everything that we're going to be talking about today, there's probably someone within a few hundred yards of where we are sitting who's written a paper on it, right? But they don't talk to each other. And one of the great things about the world that we live in is that it's much easier for us to get people to talk to each other if we use technology in the right way. And that's really where the Office of Digital Learning has been so useful, because I think where we share, a deep concern for building a platform around the needs of the users rather than the traditional academic focus on telling the world what we know. Okay. And I think that is what we are finding is striking a chord. So another little story. Graduate students who are on the list over there, our webinar speakers, are so excited because it's an opportunity for them. We just asked them to do one thing and they're doing 7 things for us. So that's
great.
Yeah.
Terrific. Renata, tell us a little bit about sort of early days, how you became convinced that this was an idea that would be very successful.
All right, so in 2012, the Rio +20 conference happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And a few university students in Brazil went there, and they saw that there was no space for youth, especially from the global south, no space at all. And they were very surprised because this is about our future. It was 20 years after the Earth Summit in 1992. And it's something very crucial for us in the next years. And there was no space for young people there. So then Engajamundo was created for that purpose initially. So we could go to international climate conferences and gender conferences and UN Habitat and all these UN conferences and try to have a bigger voice for Brazilian youth. And that was our initial plan. But then we saw that that wasn't enough. Just going to these international conferences wasn't enough to actually engage Brazilian people on a local level. So that's why we started the workshops all over Brazil, indigenous communities, more than 16 states in Brazil. And then that's when we saw that we could actually do something about this. We can actually be a part of the solution through local actions and international actions. And we have a lot of energy as young people. And we need to make use of that and go to these conferences and speak up and learn about this in a fun way, because we know that sometimes people are not that interested, especially young people, because they think climate change is too scientific, it's too boring sometimes for them. But then when they actually go to these workshops and they see how important that actually is for their future and how they can actually go to this conference and take part in it, they're more interested, and that really creates change in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys another round of questions, and then we'll open it to the audience. I would love, and maybe Trish, you want to address this because I know you're the PhD on the team, and I would love to have you and stand up, please, and tell us a little bit about behavior science 101 that went into the formulation of this Dear Tomorrow company. Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, I think there'll be a mic if you can't. Can everyone hear her?
Yeah, I can project.
Yeah, you can. You must be a mother. No, it's amazing. You just have to get louder and louder.
Right, so my background is, I'm an economist. I'm a behavioral economist and an environmental economist. And we have all these great solutions with economics. We have all these great technologies, but the idea of saying, how do we get people to listen and take information and actually incorporate it into their decisions? That's one question that's really been driving Dear Tomorrow. And the second question is, right now we're kind of suffering from global procrastination, where we say, the future 2050, it's so long, we have plenty of time. It seems so far away. It doesn't seem like it's relevant today. And it doesn't seem like we have to think about 2050 and 2100 every day of our lives. So this question of what makes information sink in and what makes it bounce off seemingly and just have no impact on people's actual decisions. I've dug into that question, and one really key piece is how information is framed makes a huge difference. And what Dear Tomorrow really reaches is this idea that if we can connect with people's most important identities and their most important values, then we can get them to really make climate change a priority. Because we've been really successful getting environmentalists on board with climate change. We're all probably in the same boat. We care about nature, we care about the polar bears, we care about the future of this planet. But your regular soccer mom from Kansas City it doesn't resonate with them. It's not that they don't care, it's just that it's not the most important thing to them. And the one thing, as both Jill and I are mothers, my daughter was 10 months old when I thought of this. It's the most important thing in my life, and I make decisions and sacrifices every single day to make sure that my child has the best possible future. So getting people to connect their role as a parent with their role as moving climate change in the right direction so they have a safe and secure future, that's one of the key pieces. And then the other key is saying, 2050 doesn't sound so far away when we think about the fact that, our kids in 2050 will be our age. And I don't really feel that old. It's you can make your own judgments on that, but it's not that far away. And you think my daughter will be my age in 2050. My granddaughter will be, it brings the future closer and makes it feel present. And that's the two main drivers of our work.
Thank you. And I think that you're really onto something there, because I've noticed in my own work that when you can talk to a CEO on a level that gets them to start thinking about how are they behaving, that they can talk about at the Thanksgiving dinner table with their children and grandchildren, it really does connect on an incredibly personal level. So I think it's absolutely brilliant what you're doing. And I love the piece that it's not just the parents, it's the grandparents, and it's the aunts, and it's the uncles. It's, who do we set aside our money for? Who do we give up sleep for? And those are our blood relatives. And so you are actually so sophisticatedly, smartly, intelligently hooking into just a very basic tenet of humanity. So yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's about our legacy. It's important.
Exactly. Okay, terrific. Wonderful. My next, Rajesh, I thought that I would give you a couple of minutes now to tell us what we can expect when we go to your platform. I know that there is learning. I think that even if I didn't go to MIT, can take advantage of this. It's open platform. I think that also you have a vision for connecting the learning to actual jobs, which is something that we're hearing a lot about, this transition from the economy that we know and to the economy of the future that's going to be happening quickly. So tell us, sort of connect the dots for us on that, and that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, this is not an MIT platform. Let me just reiterate that. We are starting at MIT, but even our first offerings are for everybody in the world, right? So climatex.mit.edu is an open platform, and we are going to be very community driven. So just at the seed phase, we are literally at the prototyping phase where we're working with the Office of Digital Learning, but step 2 is already going to be engaging people here. And there are so many people in this room who I think would be fantastic providers of content, community leaders, people who can share their expertise. I mean, to give a kind of problem that we would like to address quite directly. So, I live in the Boston area. I live in Belmont. It's a kind of semi-suburb of the Boston area. There are many towns in this greater Boston area that are doing wonderful work, Concord and Lexington. So we want people in Concord to be able to teach people in Lexington, right? So that kind of very fine-grained peer-to-peer problem solving is what we want to build. And it will happen only if everybody in this room, everybody who's watching us on the web, is on the platform sharing their ideas on how to be climate leaders, right? We are not trying to build a platform for ourselves. We're trying to build a platform for you. So that's my first stage. The second thing about careers, which you mentioned, which I think is a very important piece, ultimately livelihoods are what change the world, right? Because what puts bread on the table. For example, Bill McKibben in his most recent article mentions that, the AFL-CIO talks about how you cannot face off fossil fuels right away because there are good jobs that are union jobs and there are well-paid jobs. And we have this big dilemma. How do we shift people from jobs that are tied to the fossil fuel economy to new jobs that are tied to the green economy? And I think that, of course, it's a chicken and egg problem. We need solar installers, but we need people who know how to do that. And we need them to be trained. And so training and connections to mentors are absolutely crucial to getting those jobs. And so ClimateX is building that full workflow, right? That you get trained on new skills, you get connected to mentors who can provide you access to the networks, because as everybody here knows, it's jobs are not just about who you know, what you know, but also who you know. And then having companies and others who are willing to absorb the people who are trained on this platform. So.
That's great. I mean, it's a marvelous idea. How many people are already involved? Do you think, is it 0 as of 8 o'clock this morning and now it's 100, or where are we?
We are actually on our sign-up list. I think we already have about 370. And that was before 8 o'clock this morning.
Hopefully we can add a couple zeros to that number by the end of the day.
Thank you.
With all of us publicizing it. Terrific. So Renata, I've never been to Brazil. I don't know who has been to Brazil. Okay, so not everybody.
You should.
We certainly got a good look at it this summer for the Olympics, and my own impression is just disgracefully uninformed in terms of I know that there's some issues around political situation, there are vast natural resources that are and are not being used, responsibly. There is a lot of pollution apparently, crime, corruption perhaps, beauty, big economy. And now we have a very energized group of young people involved on climate solutions. I wonder if you could just imagine yourself as the ambassador from Brazil at this moment. Tell us why Brazil is a great place to launch a project like yours. What is it about the country that needs this and that can help support it? And I'm hoping that in your comments then you might tell us what you've noticed as you've gone to different countries about the idea of replicating or growing internationally.
All right. That's a really good question. That's actually what I'm hoping to do in the future, studying here and then going back to Brazil to actually make a change. And well, as you all know, Brazil is a huge country, a lot of resources, a very rich country in those terms. And sadly, we've been having all these problems politically, economically. And I do think that it's through youth that we're going to change that, because we are the future leaders we are the leaders of tomorrow. So as an ambassador of Brazil would say, I believe there is a lot of hope for Brazil. It's a very promising country to grow and be a leader regionally, globally, in climate issues, in gender issues, in economic issues, all issues. And we're hoping to do that in the near future. And I do believe that that comes from the ground up. So it's through civil society, through young people. And as I've gone to other countries, I've noticed that whenever I see Brazilians everywhere, I just saw a Brazilian right there, we all unite and we all love the country so much. I noticed there's a lot of passion in Brazil, and we just need to apply that, have leadership positions, act politically, locally, even little things, which is what our workshops aim for, just, eating less meat, riding bikes, taking public transportation. So small actions are going to lead to bigger actions in the future. And I think that if every person in Brazil starts doing that and, being their change in their own houses, in their own communities, we can actually change Brazil, and not change, but make it better. It's an amazing country, and it has a lot of potential to be a big leader in the world in general. So I think that through these workshops and through the youth power, we can build something very beautiful and have a great, beautiful power for the world in the next years.
Something tells me we're going to be seeing more of you.
Hopefully, yeah.
That's really great.
Thank you.
So now I hope there are some questions from the audience. If not, I could go on all day just chatting with you three. But if you'd like, why don't you raise your hand and we'll see if we can get a conversation going here. Yes. And please, when you ask your question, stand up. Give us just 2 seconds on who you are, where you're from. Huh? Is it easy? Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
My name is Katie Friedman. Okay, my name is Katie Friedman, and I work for the Charles River Watershed Association as an aquatic scientist. But prior to my work there, I worked at the City of Boston. I'm in their environment department, and this question is mainly for Renata. I would staff a lot of the public hearings, and I'm 26, I was always the youngest person in the room. And so I'm really interested in sort of catalyzing all the energy of the young people in the greater Boston area, getting involved in local politics, even just getting them into public hearings to see the process. So I'm curious how you first reached out to young people, if it was through social media, how you got them into the workshops. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for, being part of the change. And, we need a lot more youth voices. And specifically for Engajamundo, we've used a lot of social media. That's the main tool for young people nowadays. We have over 14,000 likes in our page on Facebook. And we also have all the other social media, Instagram, Twitter. And also we try we spread basically our group all over Brazil. So we have small groups in every state, basically almost every state. And we go to schools, public school, private schools, universities, and we talk to them about this in a very young people to young people way, because that way it's more interesting to them. And that way they know that it's something reachable and that they can act on it. So it's mostly social media, but going to these events, like for example, last year we went to COP21. We were a huge delegation of 20 people. And it was really nice because there you can actually meet a lot of other young people that sometimes are just there through the universities, through NGOs. And we actually get support from the Brazilian government to attend these meetings. So it's good to bring these people together and tell them, hey, you can do that too. So you can go to these big conferences that 2 years ago to me it seemed big UN meetings. I could never go to that, just for diplomats. And you see that, no, there's space for young people in these things. So it's mostly spreading awareness and telling them that you too can be a part of it, and you too can come and join us and have a voice in these negotiations and youth briefings and whatever it is that we can have some power to speak up. Hope that answers your question.
What you bring up is, you know, the city of Boston and many municipalities are so forward-thinking and you know, really doing some great work on climate preparedness. And in Boston, we have the Climate Ready report. But the process can seem so arcane, and I think for young people or anyone, it's, you know, we become impatient. We go to those meetings and things happen so slowly, and there have to be so many people agreeing, and you know, this is the way we've always done it. And so, you know, disrupting that is a really good thing. So don't forget to do that. Yes.
Hi, my name is Alexander Dale. I'm a AAAS Science Technology Policy Fellow at the EPA right now. I'm also a board member with Engineers for a Sustainable World. I guess I have a question. I'm going to do this question to Rajesh. So tech makes talking easier, but all these people on MIT that don't talk to each other, we have this problem at EPA as well. Talking still takes time. So do you see ways for this sort of interconnection, which is really valuable, to be kind of formally credited in people's job schedules or course schedules or other pieces?
Fantastic question, right? And we want to do this in a way that it's automated, so that let's say you have whatever you do on a platform, and not just on our platform, ideally on many other locations, should be aggregated and sourced into a kind of a living resume that you can build. And I definitely see that as part of our future. But whether we can, I mean, so what kind of specific forms of accreditation we can explore, I think that is going to be a negotiation, right? Because the accreditation must have value, right? And so part of the problem is this online accreditation business itself is in flux. So it's many moving parts, but absolutely needs to be done.
Yeah, that's, I mean, oftentimes, as we know, behavior scientists will tell us that if you can give someone a badge or some sort of something that they can put on their LinkedIn profile or their, whatever you said, living resume, that does it. It's very simple, little tactic. Does anyone have a question for the Dear Tomorrow team? Okay.
Hi, my name is Marina, and I'm from Argentina, from Kerry team. I wanted to know if there's like, I see your platform is for mothers and uncles for their children. I wanted to know if there's like a guide or something for them to know how to teach them from, well, I think it's important for them, since they are really little, to grow up with climate change. So if there is a platform or anything to guide parents or the uncles to teach young kids about climate change.
You guys don't have to build it, but there are lots of them out there.
Should I address this?
Please do.
Okay. So, I mean, our project is really aimed as a communications tool right now, where, you know, people are writing letters and submitting photographs, and we're hoping to expand to videos where people can share their stories. And I think one of the things that we're talking about in terms of actions is building a platform where we would be able to, understand from what people are submitting, and then, take their letters and then turn them into action items that we can provide for those families or for the letter writer. So, we would basically take the information that's given, and using big data, we would create a platform where we would say, based on what you're writing, we suggest you do 1, 2, or 3. And that could be, planting a garden with your family, or it could be, going to a public hearing and talking about bike lanes, or it could be learning how to compost or something. But that would be based on what the individual interests are. And so this is kind of the next phase. And I'm not sure it fully addresses, like, we don't have something that says, this is what everybody should do. What we would like to build is a platform, a second part of the platform that targets what people's interests are and give them suggestions from there. And those interests would be based also on things people can do in their home, with their family, in their community.
Great. Yes, sir.
I have a follow-up answer. 3 years ago, we won the first place in Youth Action. I'm Dave Finnegan, by the way. And it was for Climate Changes Elementary. And it's very much a sister program to what has been proposed, or what is being enacted with this project. We go into elementary schools all over the United States. We spend a day, we work with the kids all day, and in the evening, the parents come in. And every family fills out a green action checklist of all the things they promised to do to reduce their carbon and water footprint. And then we send it home with the kids. And we say to the kids before they leave the room, now tonight, make sure you put this up on the refrigerator door. And every time your grown-up does anything on the list, give them a hug and say, thank you, Mom, thank you, Dad, for the clean, green future. And that's how we're going to get a clean, green future. And the part that won the award for Youth Action is what we're enacting now, which is to take those items on the list and put them into an e-commerce site, so that every time a family purchases anything that's good for the environment, not only do they reduce their energy bills and their water bills, but their school gets a rebate. And so it's a fundraiser for schools. And that project is what won us the Youth Action Award a couple of years ago. And we're trying to move forward with that, and we're going to be working with Jill, I'm sure.
That's great.
And
it's nice to have
hopefully
alumni
putting it
come
on
back.
edX.
That's great. Thank you.
It's Climate Changes Elementary. I'm Dave Finnegan, and I'll be around tomorrow. We'll do a discussion of this tomorrow, probably.
All right. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Alejandro Alvarez. come from Medellin, Colombia, and I'm representing the Low Carbon City Initiative and EAFIT University, which is a partner of the initiative. And we were actually close to Engallamundo in the People's Choice. And I want to congratulate you because it is a very interesting initiative. And my question goes to Jill and Renata. And what we are trying to do with the Low Carbon City Initiative is to bring all the actors, all the possible actors together in a way that we can foster the low carbon cities right now. And my question is, how do you want to involve the academy into this purpose? We will be hosting the Low Carbon City Forum in 2 weeks in Medellin. And we want really the people to be informed about this, but we also want to know how academy can play a more important role in bringing information to the people and promoting this change that we need so ardently.
I think just in terms of how to like engage cities and on the city level, I think there's a real opportunity, at least like one of the visions I have for Dear Tomorrow is to dig down deeper into a locality. And you could pick a city if that was, I'm from New York City, develop partnerships with other organizations, and then have people within organizations like community groups, school groups, environmental justice, participate in Dear Tomorrow and kind of bring much more awareness on kind of a more local level. We could run like a contest, and then do like a public engagement piece, like through that process. So that's a little bit answering your question around like how do you engage on the city level. I think there's also like an opportunity for any partners out there that are interested, is thinking about like how could you use the Dear Tomorrow platform to both engage the people that you're working with, but also to amplify the messages that you're trying to promote, right? So we're starting to see interest from a broader media asking like, what are in these letters? Can you read them? Can you put together some videos about these letters? And so it's an opportunity for us to amplify the messages and the work of a lot of different groups. So if there's issues around mobility and transportation, we can insert those kinds of ideas through the letters, getting people who are leaders and influencers to write and participate and to amplify messages of partner organizations.
So in terms of engaging at a local level, that's a lot of what we do at Engajamundo. We just launched this project called Cidade dos Sonhos, in English, City of Our Dreams, basically. So each region, each state does this poll with this big posters that we have about different proposals that we have for regional governments to act on it. So everything from having more areas for people to use bikes and having more vegan places, those little small things locally are a few proposals that we ask people to vote on it. Young people in the streets, we just approach them and talk to them about it, and then we send those proposals to the regional governments, to local politicians in every area of Brazil. And that's a little bit of what we do to actually tell them what we're hoping that they would propose for the elections that are coming up. And also in terms of involving the academy and all those things, it's basically when we see them at conferences and at all these important events that we go to, it's trying to engage with them and making them understand that it's not just youth to youth. We need more help. We need credibility from older people, from people in positions of power as well. So I think if there's a big connectivity between people from civil society, government, academia, all these areas, we can make something really cool, really nice about the environment and about future actions that we can make. This would be on a bigger level, but locally, I think that engaging with the local government would be the best way, because there is the space for that. You just need to actually go there and tell them what you're hoping for and have your voice heard. You're welcome.
Good luck with your conference.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
From 10 to the 12th of October. Okay. Rejected
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm like the hardest person to reach. Hi, my name is Danielle Gendron, and I just finished a master's degree, so I'm not employed at the moment. But my question is for Rajesh and Jill, which is that so much of the problem with engaging the community is getting the community to care, even in the first place, to come to a website. So it sounds like both of you have great plans in terms of how to get them to care once they're there, but how are you getting them to actually become involved right off the bat in the first place?
We spent a lot of time thinking about this. We recognize that not everybody is going to write a letter, but we think that there's a real power in reading other people's letters. And so our strategy around, one of our strategies is to use social media. So, if you were to write a letter, you would post it on your own Facebook account with a cute picture of you and whoever, either yourself or where you live or somebody important in your life. And then your friends and family are going to look and be like, oh, you have this story that you're telling. And people around you that are close to you that are in your social networks will click on them and read them. And so we see it as like a non-political way to engage. It's not another article about how much warming we've had or how, like flooding and sea level rise. It's like your own personal narrative about what you want to say, and people are most impacted by the people around them, their own friends and family. So we see it as an opportunity it's a new opportunity to engage people in a way they haven't thought about climate change before, and to kind of begin to bring more and more people like into the conversation. So we have a Facebook, we do Instagram and Twitter.
Thanks for that wonderful question. Of course, we are just starting out, so we don't know if anyone is going to show up, let alone But having said that, I want to second a little bit of what Joel is saying here. We want to engage people where they already are, right? And that today often, especially for an online platform, that means social media. And at one level, we are a media startup, right? Because what we are putting out there is content. And where does content get shared today? It's on social media. So, so there is a kind of a programmatic way for us to bring people onto our platform, and that is through the way that things are shared. Now, there may be more specific ways that we can target particular communities. So for example, if we are building a town-to-town peer community, so where people in, say, Lexington can teach people in Concord, then we will be engaging with those specific communities directly. And for example, there are many, many community climate organizations that we'll be working with, right? But that's much more hands-on labor. But social media is the obvious way to go.
Great. Believe it or not, we've run out of time. I think we could go on and on here. I want to thank you three so much, and your co-founders and partners. Good luck. Come back next year. Let us know how you're doing. And I would invite Jen Perrin to please stand and tell us where we're going next. I have no idea. This has been very exciting. Thank you. And Jen, for your information, I think of as my handler here, as a judge for the Climate Collab. She does everything perfectly as far as I'm concerned, and deserves enormous kudos for totally herding cats and being so like unflappably like, Jen, I forget what and here you are again telling us what we're going to do. So thank you.
I turn that right back to you, Sarah. Thank you so much for your excellent moderation of this session, and thank you all for your presentations. I'm sorry that there's not enough time to keep continuing this engaging conversation, but we're moving into a break session actually, so you can continue the conversation for about 15 minutes, but then in 15 minutes time there's going to be a new set of breakout sessions happening here in this room and in subsequent rooms, and so on the TV screens outside you can see all the different sessions. But we have a 15-minute break, and at 11:15 the next session starts.
Thank you.